What is up, guys? Welcome to today's video. Today we're going over the add-on guide for my UI, and we'll notice it's changed just a little bit, but the concept of it is still the same. I had gotten and watched one of Method's videos recently on what add-ons they use for raiding, and Loozy, the warlock that was doing the guide, put his LVUI profile in the description. So I went over there and looked at it, and I really like the minimalistic of it. So I'll put that video down in the description below, but shout out to them for that, because this is an insanely minimalistic UI. I mean, obviously, everything I've thrown in here is a little additive to it, and it's kind of crazy, but we're going to go through this, and this is going to be sort of a long video because I'm going to talk with each one of them in depth as to what they do within my UI. So stick tuned for the ride, but here we go. Our first add-on that we're going over today is Add-on Control Panel. And what Add-on Control Panel does is, as you can see here, it keeps all of your add-ons loaded when you reload UI basically. The description of it is, adds an add-on manager in the game via add-ons menu. So it'll add this, and what it does is over here you'll notice some locks and some stars. When you have a star, it says click to enable protected mode. Protected add-ons will not be disabled when performing a reload. So if you have like an add-on checked here, it will load the add-on, but the moment you reload, it will disable it if you don't have it in protected mode, which is pretty cool. Our next add-on we are going over today is add-on skins. So add-on skins is a part of LVUI, and when you head over here to add-on skins in the module, what it's going to do is exactly what it sounds. It skins over things that the add-on has support for. So in here you'll notice I have weak words disabled support-wise, but I have a ton of different add-ons that all have support within this. And it'll just skin it to the LVUI skin. Our next add-on is Advanced Interface Options. So you'll notice the memory usage on it is a little low. What Advanced Interface Options does is restores access to the removed interface options from Legion. So if we come over to Interface and Advanced Interface Options here, you'll notice that it's got action cam support, the max camera distance that your toon can follow you has been increased in here. The guild titles and stuff like that are all back in here. So Blizzard removed a lot of things, and this add-on just aims to bring it back. The next add-on we are going over is Angry Keystones. So Angry Keystones and Gotta Go Fast conflict with each other very heavily, but what Angry Keystones does is over here it'll use your quest objective tracker frame to put in the same thing the Blizzard UI does, except you have your keystone, like the affixes, will be over here. The death timer, like how many deaths you have, is over here as well. The 2 and the 3 chests are marked with a yellow and a orange, I believe. So it just uses the in-game quest tracker to run it over. These next two add-ons go hand in hand with each other. Artifact Power Tooltip and Artifact Power User. So what Artifact Power Tooltip does is when you have an Artifact Power item in your bags, it will show the current artifact you have equipped. So you notice I have Scale of the Earth Warder equipped over here. It'll show the current artifact you have equipped. So if we were to fly down to over here on the hill and change specs real quick, you'll notice the moment I change specs here, this kind of bugs out, but it'll now say Stromkar the Warbreaker, which is the artifact I have equipped, which is pretty cool. And the add-on that goes along with that add-on is Artifact Power User. So this one does bug out quite often, as we'll notice, but what Artifact Power User does is when you have it installed, it will put a artifact icon over the middle of your screen. It does like to bug out and glitch, so sometimes it'll not show, because you'll notice I have a ton of artifact power items here, but none of them show up. Next add-on we are going to cover is Battleground Defender. So if you are in a LFG and you want to cover an add-on, or want to cover a base rather, it will put a display on your screen that you can click on, like a 1 through 5. It allows you to move it, and there's a help and a save button. But I have mine set up to about right here. Basically, all it is you click on it and it will post it in the chat like, oh, this person needs help with this, or this person needs help with that. So BG Defender here, you'll notice it'll announce it. You can announce it somewhere else. If you're the raid leader in the battleground, you can change that to raid warning, which is pretty cool. The next add-on we are going over is Can I Mog It? So Can I Mog It is really useful if you're going to run an old raid or an old dungeon, and we'll just hover over, let's hover over some legs here. You'll notice it'll say down in the bottom right hand corner, the learn check mark is from Can I Mog It? So if you have already learned the item, it'll have a learn check mark. If you haven't already learned the item, so for instance these shoulders, it'll say not learned in the X there on the side. And if you can't even learn the item to begin with, what it'll do is if we come over to a legendary and let's go to Shaman, the chest piece, cannot learn class Shaman. So it'll tell you you can't learn it on this tune, but you can learn it on your Shami. Mouse bugging out again. Change that back. Next item we are going to go over is class colors. So you'll notice here I've got colors in the chat as to what classes you are. That is actually done by right-clicking General, clicking Settings, and showing all of your class colors here. But what class colors does is if we were to go over to Interface, Add-ons, Class Colors, it allows you to change the color of the class itself. Now this does not work with every single thing in the game, but it works with the majority of them. So if we were wanting to change the color of the warrior, I can just click on that and change the color. Next add-on we are going over is Click. So what Click does is pretty awesome for a healer. If you're a healer and you want to heal people from afar without left-clicking their nameplate and then using the spell on your action bar, you can hit P and it'll open your spell book, and there's this click binding configuration right here. You left click on that and it says you are in click binding mode. So now everything you do is going to be put in this click window. So for instance on my prot set, because you cast intercept a lot in prot, anytime I mouse wheel up over a nameplate on one of my raiders, it will intercept them. So you don't even have to target them, you can intercept them. This works really well if someone's taking a ton of damage and intercept is off of cooldown. These two items we're going over go hand in hand with each other, and that is Deadly Boss Mods and Bigwigs. So the reason I have both of these installed is not just due to the fact that they're both really useful. They both work in their own ways. Bigwigs updates a lot faster, but Deadly Boss Mods has a lot more to it than you think. So Deadly Boss Mods has a ton of different add-ons to it. It's got PvP, it's got a lot of old raids, but they're all like combined with each other, and you have to go download a different mod for each of them. Bigwigs updates a lot faster because there's a lot less of them, and I personally like to use Bigwigs a lot more than DBM. But if we were to open just DBM for example, you'll notice that it'll tell you, oh hey, Broken Shore stuff It'll tell you all your world bosses and how much stuff you have. Every old thing here. So it's really customizable. Next add-on we are going to cover is the Deja character stats. So what DCS does is, and a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of things were taken out of the character screen, and I personally love what Blizzard has done, saying basically, oh look, if someone wants to create an add-on for it, go for it. But what DSC does, or DCS, for Deja character stats does, it allows you to put all of this back in here. So if you open up your character panel and you unlock this, you'll notice you can look at your agility, for example. I'm on a warrior. Agility is useless, so I can obviously uncheck this. But everything that you have unchecked and checked, so let's uncheck critical strike here and relock this. You'll notice critical strike no longer shows up. If we scroll back down here to crit strike, it now re-shows up in this window. There's also a scroll wheel over here for if you have it too far. Next add-on we are going over is Details. So Details by itself is extremely awesome. So you can download Details, you can download SCADA, you can download Recount, but I recommend Details. Details is extremely nice. It does have a lot of memory to go with it, but it is not as heavy as, say, Recount. Now the reason mine has a ton of memory to go with it, and memory isn't really an issue with WoW now, but I run 4 windows because I like to raid lead and see all of what everybody's doing, how much damage they're taking, and the logs to go with it. So to open it up, you're going to come over to if you're on your mini map, you're going to come over to the Details and left click it. And it is entirely customizable. Obviously I've got 4 windows up, so you can have more than one window. The more windows you have, the higher your memory is going to be. But I like looking at everything at the same time. So you can look at Details. The reason I love Details a lot more than SCADA is because you can have your Details meters updated in real time, and not only that, I can have parsing logs. So this checks based on the combat time instead of when people instantly die. So if people were to instantly die, that's on activity. Your damage just stops. What effective time does for Details is it'll now, when you die, your damage slowly falls off. So me as a raider, I'll go, oh hey, this guy was doing this when he died, but now his damage is slowly falling off. So if your guild's looking to parse on Warcraft logs, Details is the add-on for you. The next thing we are going over is LVUI. And LVUI by itself, you can get that on tuckui.org, which I will put in the description. LVUI completely replaces the user interface for WoW. So you'll notice here, a lot of my stuff is a lot darker. I mean, I have an inky black potion on, but if we type /EC here, it completely recustomizes your UI. You can change it to everything around. LVUI also can bug out sometimes with other add-ons, but I haven't seen that too often since this new update of 10.50. But you can enable and disable anything in the add-on that you like. I have one bag over here, which is really awesome with LVUI. You can disable that, but LVUI is really amazing. The other thing you can have, so if you like the way somebody's profile is, say if they're streaming or if a certain YouTube video pops up, they can export their profile to you. So it is really, really cool to do that. You can also, let's say you're in a party and someone wants to just share it with you instantly. If you target them, click share profile, current profile over here, it will share your profile in the game, the entire profile, to them, which is pretty awesome. It also has a lot of plugins that go with it. So that's all on TuckUI. and I'll put that in the description below. The add-on we are going over, which I actually installed this morning, is called Flight Master, or Flight Map and Time. So what Flight Map and Time does is it'll put, for Legion zones, it's still recording all of them, but now you're going to use your normal world map for all of this, and you can just hover over a certain map and it will tell you where to go. So if we hearth to Warlords real quick. I know Warlords is kind of a crazy expansion, but I loved it nonetheless. If we hearth over here, let the game load. Fly over to the flight guy and just left click or right click on him. You'll notice now it'll show up a ton of these. If we outbound here, the moment I click, let's say here, if you haven't done a flight, it will auto time it just like this, which is why I clicked a rather short flight path to show you that. But if you're in Stormwind, for example, and you want to fly to like Ironforge, it'll show you all your stuff on the map as well here. But if you're in Stormwind and you want to fly to like Ironforge, you can do that. And it will tell you how long. So if you want to AFK, you can, which is pretty awesome. Next add-on we have is Garrison Mission Manager. So this one goes hand in hand with two different add-ons. I just used my Hearthstone for both of those, so we're going to have to fly all the way back over here. You are busy and can't use the taxi service right now. Really? There we go. So if we fly back on over here, back to our garrison, this also works with the Legion stuff and the Warlord stuff if you ever come back to the Warlord's garrison. But all it is it basically shows you your followers. It allows you to one-click a button, which I'll explain here in a second, that you can send all your followers out at the same time, which is pretty amazing. So we fly back into here. Run over here to your command center. For the Warlords one, sorry guys. For the Warlords one, it'll show everything over here, and you just right click to set tentative parties. For the Legion one, you just left click and it will auto send it out. But let's right click all of these that are 100% for now, because I rarely come over here. Gonna do a 90, and then you just click send tentative parties, and it's gonna send all of those for you automatically, just like that. Gathermate 2. So Gathermate 2 is pretty amazing. What Gathermate 2 and Gathermate 2 data do is all of the stuff you see over here on your map is stuff where people have mined, and you can get the thing off of WoW database, or you can import it manually into the add-on yourself. But it'll show you everywhere that anybody has mined. So if we come over here and want to mine Ghost Iron, for an example, it'll show you all the Ghost Iron. This does not show you the node up itself. It just shows you where people have mined. So if we go into the actual add-on itself, into Gathermate 2, you'll notice you can completely customize this with your minimap, track where they are. It's pretty amazing. Importing certain ones. So I've imported the mining one by just clicking mining and then click import, and it imported it all to your map. The next add-on we are going over is Gotta Go Fast. So as I mentioned a while ago, Gotta Go Fast and Angry Keystones conflict with each other rather heavily, but what Gotta Go Fast does is pretty amazing. So if we clicked on Gotta Go Fast here, and I clicked demo mode, it gets rid of your quest frame, and adds all of this right here. So this looks like Neltharion's lair. It'll show you your keystone number. If you hover over the keystone itself, it shows you, okay, so we have skittish, bolstering, and fortified. It'll tell you what each one of them are, and it tells you your 2 and 3 chest timer and how fast you're killing each of them, which is pretty amazing. Next add-on we are going over is GTFO. So GTFO stands for get the fuck out, and what it does is anytime you're standing in crap or you're about to be hit by something, GTFO makes some noises here, which you can enable or disable. You can turn it up really loud or lower it, and you can set how much health you want it to hit you for and enable it, which is pretty amazing. The next add-on we are going over is handy notes. So you'll notice on my screen over here, I've said this quite a lot, but the vendor one sort of is crazy. Every time you mount up on a repair mount, it'll show you where you've mounted up. It shows you after you click on the vendors, it'll show you where each vendor is. So if we go over to Ashran, Storm Shield, it shows you where each one of these trainers are and mailboxes and stuff like that. So that's pretty amazing. The other cool thing is, let's say we're on the Broken Shore, right? Come over to Suramar. Let's go ahead and disable. Well, you can't really disable GatherMate 2 unless you have it disabled in the add-on itself, but if we click on the handy note icon up here, you'll notice what changes and what shows up. So it shows you where all the portals are, it shows you where all your treasures are if you haven't gotten any treasures, and this is just from clicking handy notes here. All of these handy notes come in with it. So it's really useful for tracking achievements that you haven't done yet. The next add-on we are going over is Improved Blood Trader. So I'm hearthing the Dalran here real quick, but Improved Blood Trader does exactly how it sounds. So Blizzard kind of implemented some of the stuff that this add-on does, but then Improved Blood Trader went ahead and made it even better. So if we fly over here to the Blood Trader, we're going to right click on this Blood Trader, and you'll notice if I shift click this item, it'll now allow me to shift click and use it. But beforehand, now, if you were to left click on or right click on any of these, so let's say I need some artifact, the order hall resources, even though I have 53,000 over here, if I right click on that, it now, instead of telling you, oh hey, you want to trade one of these for 1 blood, it'll just instantly put it over here, which is pretty nice. Next add-on we are going over, which was shown to me by another YouTuber, is Incentive Program. So if you like Satchel Queuing, all Satchel Queuing does for right now in Legion is you get anywhere between 800 to 850 gold, a couple of defiled augment runes, and some extra artifact power. But you click on this, it'll show you, okay, so it'll show you what spec you have queued for. You can join the queue from right here, or, so the Random Legion Heroic one is up right now. If we click on Dungeon, right there, I can just click Find Group, and it'll show right there. Pretty amazing. The add-on we are going over is Keystone Helper. So this one is really awesome. When someone links you a key, so let's just link this one in chat real quick. You'll notice here, if I link it like that, it's going to show you the level of the keystone in the chat automatically. It's going to show you the keystone itself over here. So that green text is what this add-on adds. Bursting. So for this week, bursting, when a non-boss enemy is slain, explodes, causing all players to suffer 10% of their max health. It's pretty amazing. It shows it for every week. The add-on we are going over is KUI. So KUI nameplates is really awesome. it works really well with LVUI. The only problem I've seen with it so far is it doesn't track some auras, like Prot Warriors, Devastate. That the bleed effect that Devastate and Revenge give isn't tracked on there, so if that could be tracked, that would be really nice, but it keeps the nameplates all nice and clean. And when you charge it, for example, after you get it down to a certain point, and I do have some of this modified, but when you charge it, it'll show your debuffs over here on the target. It shows the percentage here instead of the actual health pool, which is pretty nice for if you're a warrior, for example, and we get this mob down to 20%. The moment I hit 20%, execute obviously happens, but that's pretty awesome. Next add-on we are going over, Leatrix is sort of an add-on by itself. I don't have that enabled, but what we're going over is Macro Toolkit. So what Macro Toolkit does is really awesome. It stays within the 255 character limit. You can extend that, but I do not recommend extending it. But it stays within that 255 character limit. Anytime you make an add-on, or a macro rather, it'll show you, okay, so this works. So if we come over to one that I have made that is wrong, did you mean /cast? So this just shows, oh hey, you don't have to have any of those capitalized to make this work. That type of thing. It's pretty awesome. Next add-on we are going over is Mask. So Mask is a skinning add-on. Works really well with everything else. You type /mask in the chat and you can skin everything at the same time. I use Clean UI Edged, but you can use anything you have add-on wise that Mask can skin, it will skin. But if we open up Mask here, it keeps everything organized properly. Next add-on we are going over is Masterplan. So Masterplan and Garrison Mission Manager work hand in hand with each other. The difference between the two is Masterplan will show the followers and how they work together. So over here you'll notice that it doesn't really say anything that Masterplan actually does. But if we walk in here again, over to this table, click followers, this is what Masterplan does right here. It tells you what you can counter, when you encounter it. So that's pretty amazing. It does the same thing with the Legion one as well, except it's not this detailed. Next add-on we are going over is Max DPS. So if you use something like a DPS rotation that you don't really know, or if you're unsure about a DPS rotation and you want to get better at it, Max DPS is a newer add-on that'll load when you're on a certain class. So obviously I'm on a warrior. This blinking button here and these buttons here that look a little different that are like lit are from Max DPS. So if we come to interface, go over down here, you can change the texture at which these look. You can enable or disable it upon combat. So obviously I have this enabled on combat, but things are working right now just to show you guys that it works. Next add-on we are going over is Model Peak, which basically does exactly what it says. If someone links a mount in chat, so let me just link a random mount I have in chat. If you left click on it, or control left click on it, it will bring up the model window and show you the model when someone links it in chat, which is pretty cool. Next add-on we are going over is mixed scrolling battle text. So what MSBT does is when we type /MSBT, You can enable or disable blizzard damage, which is pretty awesome. I have those disabled because my incoming and outgoing damage are over here. You can preview the way they look, which is really awesome. So that's really, really nice to use. Next add-on we are going over is Mythic Plus Progress and Mythic Plus Timer. So Mythic Plus Progress, when you're in the middle of a Mythic Plus, the nameplate to the right hand side, so if we walk back over to the training dummy, if you are using KUI nameplates, or any nameplate for that matter, it works with the Blizzard UI as well. The moment we get in here, it'll show up right about here where my cursor is. It'll show you the percent that mob is worth. And what the timer does is another thing that involves Mythic Plus. So if we come over to Mythic Plus Timer, all your best times is what Mythic Plus Timer does. So if you're trying to beat your best time, that is also displayed over in the thing as well. So in the thing, in the Gotta Go Fast. So Gotta Go Fast, Mythic Plus Timer work really, really well together. The next add-on we are going over is Nami Cakes. So if we hearth to Dalran, what Nami Cakes does is, if you don't like Nami burning all of your food, or if you're looking for a certain recipe by yourself, what Nami Cakes will do, come down here to Nami Cakes, which isn't actually in the interface options. But if we fly over to Nami, over here, if we hover over each one of these, it'll show you what you don't have and what you need to get. So, for instance, the ley blood, I currently have one going right now, and it says that I have all those recipes I need to learn. The other thing I want to mention with Nami Cakes is if you put 1 to 2 recipes in here at a time, so if I put 2 recipes in each here, that one didn't go through. If we put 2 recipes in each here, they give you recipes faster. So the more food you give Nami, the more likely he is to burn it all, which is really amazing. And then a side effect from Nami is prepared ingredients. When you combine 10 of these, you cook 10 of random food, and you may also discover that recipe that you cook, which is pretty amazing. Requires a cooking fire, but that's pretty cool by itself. The add-on we are going over is MPC Scan. So this one isn't really as relevant as, say, it is for older expansions, but what it's going to do is if we click on our map here, it doesn't really work in Legion. So if we go over to, say, Northrend, all of these little outlines here, so if we hover over one of these, it'll blink the path at where it's at. So let's go to Timeless Isle, for example. Timeless Isle is really, really big, so it'll put a skull over each one of these. That's handy notes, the skulls are, but if you hover over the path, it'll show you what mob that is. If you hover over these, it'll blink. The one last cool thing about MPC Scan, if you're tracking a certain achievement, the achievements you have done or need to do are over here. If they are red, you have not killed it. If it is green, you have killed it. And that works with everything over here as well. When you get a actual one that you hover over with your mouse, it'll put a little toast over in the corner that is customizable to be moved. You can also have it output to any of the add-ons that you have, make it have a different sound. So I have the cartoon sound effect, that right there, which is pretty awesome. So if I hover over something and it's rare, it'll make that sound effect. Next add-on we are going over is Omen. So what Omen does is the moment you come in combat with somebody, Omen threat meter will, if you're a tank that loses threat a lot, I recommend this add-on, but it will put a threat meter on your screen that'll basically tell you, oh hey, I'm about to lose threat with some mob. I need to use a single target spell to gain a lot more threat. You can lock it, you can keep it. It's really customizable. Next add-on we are going over is OPai. So if you'll notice here, I don't have any of my Hearthstones on my bar or my trade skills. I do have a trade skill on my blacksmith, which is on my prot spec, but this is really awesome because if you hit Alt and then a certain keybind, so this is a quest hub right here, you can Alt H and you can recustomize these keybinds to any of them, and that can change your specs. It is really customizable, guys. But if we come into interface, go to OPai, as we know here, I can change the key binding of where they're at. I can change how they're ringed. You can also, so you'll notice I was centering the rings at my mouse. If I re-hit this, it now centers it around my character. But I like it around my mouse a lot better because we'll move it over here. All you have to do is hover over it within a certain radius and it will cast it just like that. The next add-on we are going over is Oval Spell Priority. So this one and Max DPS work really well together. What Oval Spell Priority does differently is Oval Spell Priority is another add-on to, if you don't know your DPS very well, you can set up an icon group that you can move around with. Why isn't it letting me move it? Oh, it's because I have it locked. Come on now. Well, it allows you to move it. Obviously, it can be buggy, but it puts an icon group on your screen. Let me see if I can move it so that way you guys can see it. There we go. Puts an icon group on your screen as to what spell it thinks you should cast next. Or you can disable that and just enable the spell flash option, which does the same thing Max DPS does. Next add-on we are going over is OverAchiever. So if someone links a achievement in chat, so if I were to link a achievement in chat, like let's say Broken Isles Diplomat, hover over that, you'll notice that an achievement was earned. So if I get someone in my guild to link a random achievement, if there's anybody online, yeah, there's a couple people online. So if we hover over this right here, you'll notice it shows you, oh hey, it shows you when the person completed it, and then it shows you completed this on X date, which is really awesome. The next thing it does is adds a search bar over here on the side of your screen. It also adds all the stuff down here. So if you want to search for a certain achievement, like let's say I wanted to search for Broken Isles Pathfinder, type in Broken Isles, Broken Isle Pathfinder Part 2, click on that, and it will bring you straight to that achievement. The add-on we are going over is Pawn. Pawn and Simcraft work extremely well together. They're not an end-all be-all go-to, but they keep your stat priorities in line. So let's say all these up arrows here obviously are upgrades in some spec or in some person's way, but you can manually set all your stat weights. And if I were to, let's say I want this ring to compare it with a ring I'm currently wearing. So if we click compare, we click a ring, move it over here, and then I want to move this 880 ring over here. It'll tell me that this is an upgrade, but it also tells you if it's an upgrade if you hover over the tooltip itself based on which one it is. But do note that it is not an end-all be-all, oh hey, this ups this by this amount, because for instance, an arms warrior requires 20% haste. I don't have 20% haste, so getting rid of this ring for the crit ring would actually benefit me, but at the same time it would kill some of my stats. So you have to look out for that. Next add-on we are going over is PLH, or Personal Loot Helper. So this add-on, when it first was released, a lot of people hated it, and I do know a lot of people that still hate it. The way you can get around people hating it is when you come over here to Personal Loot Helper, instead of notifying the entire group, uncheck this right here, because what it does is when you have this checked, it'll put it in the chat log and say, oh hey, this person rolls with this, or oh hey, this person will, it has a 10% upgrade for this guy. If you have that unchecked, it'll show it in your chat log, but it only shows it for you. So if you have an upgrade for somebody else, it'll show it on your screen and no one else's, which is really, really nice. The next add-on we are going over is Postal. So Blizzard sort of added all of the stuff that Postal added into the game a couple of updates ago, but Postal adds a little more. So Blizzard added an open all button in here, but it adds a return feature, it adds an open feature, which is pretty awesome. You can also do some of this, so you can filter out what you want to grab and what you don't want to grab, which is pretty nice. Next add-on we are going over, I personally don't use this one anymore, but RC Loot Council is a really good looting add-on if your guild runs it. I know a couple of guilds that run it, but it helps loot get distributed a lot easier and a lot faster. Some people don't like it just because, it looks like, oh hey, we're playing favoritism when you're really not, and this add-on shows that quite a lot. Next add-on we are going over is Scrap. I went over routes just a little bit ago with Gathermate. So Scrap, what Scrap does is come back over here, click on Scrap. You can make it automatically sell when we walk up to a vendor. I don't think I have any grays on me. But automatically make it sell when you walk into a vendor. You can automatically repair. I have LVY set to auto repair. Scrap adds the coin icon as well. So if you have a gray item and you're using a UI, sometimes that little goldish coin icon doesn't exist. Scrap adds that coin icon back, which is pretty awesome. Next thing we are going over is SCADA, which I have SCADA installed just for the textures on my UI. Otherwise, you use it for details or SCADA or recount, just like I mentioned in details. Any one of those are perfectly fine. Now, in order to make the max DPS and oval spell priority work properly, you're going to have to install Spell Flash Core. What Spell Flash Core is all these spells that are currently flashing, this add-on runs that. So if you don't have Spell Flash Core enabled, those other add-ons are not going to be enabled properly. For instance, if we roll over here, you'll notice optional add-ons, and then if we come down to, let me find the spell priority one. Spell priority here requires the spell one, spell flash core right there. Optional deeps, spell flash core right there. So that's kept with everything else. Next add-on we are going over is the Trophy GCD. So what Trophy GCD does is, when you saw earlier, I was casting a spell. So if I hit a macro here, it's going to cast spells and it's going to rotate these across your screen. You can also hover over your mouse to see which the tooltip is. But you can customize Trophy GCD in the add-on frame. Now obviously I have everything but player disabled, and you can move this around with the ShowHide Anchor just like that. I have mine set to about right there because I have a weak aura on top of here that shows a ton of cooldowns. Now, I did used to use tidy plates, but I do like KUI a lot better just because it is a lot smoother and there is a lot less like ways to screw it up. KUI is more user friendly. Tidy plates is more, the more in depth you can get into it, the better type of thing. TomTom. So you notice earlier when I had clicked on something and accidentally made a MPC Scan is bugging out. That's nice to know. Let's go ahead and reload my UI real quick. NPC Scan doesn't usually bug out, but sometimes it does. So you just reload your UI and it should throw it back to normal. Yep, there we go. So you'll notice if we come over to Stormheim and let's say I wanted to go grab a treasure. If I right click this, the add-on itself, you can either add a DBM arrow, which DBM has an arrow now, or you can add TomTom. So add this location to TomTom. If we undo this, this is TomTom. It tells you, oh hey, this is 4,000 yards away. It tells you the approximate time you're going to get there, and it tells you what it is. You can also remove this just by right-clicking that and clicking remove. Next add-on we are going to cover is TSM. So I'm not going to do a full guide over TSM, but what TSM does is it adds tooltips into your game. It also makes the auction house a lot easier to use, but it bugs out a lot. So only use it when you want to know when something needs to go on the auction house, or if you really want to know how much something is selling for. So if you hover over an item, what TSM will do is in the tooltip, it'll say, oh hey, this item is selling for this much on your realm. If you put it on the auction house, you should expect this much gold out of it. That's all TSM does. It also makes auctioning a lot easier if you set it up properly. Next add-on we are going over is Weak Wars 2. So you'll notice the entire time we've been talking here, let me just get rid of this. This weak aura has been popped up. This is a weak aura for Prydaz, the necklace, that is tracking your absorb with this. It also tracks if you have any other absorb on your game as well. So I'm a tank usually, and I have 2 tanking trinkets. It will add these 2 absorbs to this absorb window, but note that it uses Prydaz first before it uses your absorbs. So use that to your advantage. While it's taking out Prydaz, stack your other absorbs first. So for instance on my warrior, I'd stack Ignore Pain, and then I'd stack my trinkets, and by that time you'll have like half of your hit points and absorbs, and it's crazy. But what Weak Auras does, if we type /WA in here, gotta let it load, but the Weak Aura I have for arms, right there. You can move all of these around really easily. It's really customizable. And the way you get Weak Auras from somebody else, so if I were to post something in chat with a Weak Aura, let's say I wanted to post my Pride as one to somebody. You click that, you click on that. If the person you are sending it to does not have Weak Auras, it is going to look like a long string of random code. So be careful with how you do that, but that is how that works. The other thing I'm going to mention with Weak Auras is you have to be on the same realm with Weak Auras in order to send it to that person, because I was trying to send it to somebody else and it bugged out every time I'd send it to them. So I don't know if that is the Weak Auras itself or if that is just somebody else and it not working properly, but this is Weak Auras. The next thing we are going to cover is World Flight Map. So you'll notice earlier when I was talking about the flight times and map, the flight time and map and world flight map go really, really well together. So if you don't have world flight map installed, it's going to bring another map up. If we have world flight map installed, it's going to bring your normal player map up instead of a different map. So now I can see everything in the zone that I want to see, and we can go to that zone just like that. Pretty awesome. The next add-on that we're going to cover is actually a couple of them that go hand in hand with each other. So World Quest Group Finder, World Quest List, World Quest Tab, and World Quest Tracker. All four of these go really, really well together. World Quest Group Finder is over here. It likes to bug out after you move your mouse away sometimes. But if you're on a normal quest, you can click on this and it will automatically put you in a group. And then if other people click on that and they're having the problem, it'll invite them into your group, or you will be invited into their group. So that works as well with going into a world quest itself. So if we come over here to World Quest Group Finder, you can make it auto-invite people, you can invite yourself, you can have it leave automatically as well. So it's really customizable with how that works. The World Quest List, so if we were to go into a world quest and I was going to use the lower map over here, world quests over here, so if we go just like this, it'll show you all the world quests over here and highlight the zone as to where it is. And last but not least, this is World Quest tab, actually. World Quest List is all of this. So any one that you have up, it's going to show you this. If you have your artifact research notes, like that right there, it's going to put some stars next to your artifact research stuff. That just means it can be completed after you pick up the artifact research. And obviously, as we've noticed here, hovering over any of these is going to leave that red X on your map as well. Thank you guys for watching this UI guide. I hope it helped you, and if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to ask in the comment section below. If you like this video, go ahead and like it, and stay tuned for more videos to come.